Have you ever had a wish before? Have you ever dared to take that wish and believe that by some miracle that wish could come true? The idea of wishing on a star and dreams coming true has kind of been a trademark of the Disney Company for decades. Their latest movie promised to be the culmination of that idea, that dreams and wishes can come true. Oddly enough, the movie Wish really diminishes the hope of that sentiment. Despite the movie's whole premise being about wishing on a star, it actively drains the wonder out of the concept that a miraculous power can grant your desires. While the direction that the story chooses to go isn't entirely bad in itself, it is made terrible by other points that the movie implies. And I'm not going to sugarcoat it. This movie, Wish, is about God versus pantheism. You might be thinking to yourself that this analysis just got really weird, but just you wait till I get cooking. Before I go on into the deeper philosophical discussion, I just want to get it out of the way that Wish is a pretty lame movie overall. If you take all of the hidden themes and messages out, the plot is still generic and boring, the characters are all underdeveloped and or poorly written, most of the songs either suck or border on mediocrity, and while I liked the new animation style, it didn't blow me away. I think Encanto looked much better, and that just used basic 3D animation. Now that I got that out of the way, I want to say that I am a Christian. I also love movies. When I watch and review movies, I usually watch out for what the movie is trying to say. If I think the message is good and upright, and the movie was good, then it's a thumbs up. If the message's moral implications are damaging, then it's a thumbs down, even if the movie is good. Wish is on a whole other level. This isn't a case like with Turning Red and Easy A, where the movies were well made with well written characters, but had very negative messages that were integral to the stories. Wish is a bad movie with poorly written characters that's root message is one that vilifies my creator, Lord and Savior, God, Jesus Christ. And yes, if you attack God, you attack Jesus, because as Jesus said in John 10:30, I and my Father are one. Deep down in my heart, I know that this film, based on the way it portrays certain elements of the villain, and by the way it uses lyrics in the songs and dialogue in conversations and in the background, is secretly trying to make people believe that God is a bad guy. So, if God is all good and not evil, then how did I see him being depicted in this movie's villain, Magnifico? To begin, let's look at the movie's premise. Magnifico is a powerful sorcerer who lost his entire family and their land to thieves. But not just any thieves, mind you, they were selfish, greedy thieves. I'm so glad that the movie had Magnifico use those words to describe the thieves in the first 5 minutes where he actually acts like a good guy. I'm sure it had nothing to do with the fact that the entire rest of the movie portrays Magnifico as a selfish, greedy thief, now does it? Anyway, because of his unfortunate past, Magnifico decided to build a kingdom where all of his inhabitants will be safe, and his big draw to the kingdom is that he can grant wishes. If you give your greatest desire to him, he may one day grant that dream. The wishes in this movie are summed up as the deepest desires of a person's heart. It's essentially the most valuable part of who they are. The concept here is that people willingly give their wishes to King Magnifico, who uses his magic to hold it and keep it safe until the day that he might grant it. When the people give their wishes away, they forget what their wish was and leave it entirely in the hands of Magnifico, having faith that their prayer wish will be answered. Here is where the first comparison can be made that Magnifico represents God, an all-powerful king who builds a great kingdom where he promises peace and protection, as well as tells his people to trust their deepest desires to him so that he can bring them to pass. It sounds kind of like a God who welcomes the lost into his kingdom, whose people pray to him, and he tells them to give their dreams and desires to him with the promise that he will do great things in their life in return. The beginning of the movie Wish does a lot to hype up Magnifico as a big deal. He's a great king, someone to be admired, to celebrate, to worship even. However, once Magnifico shows the wishes to the main character Asha, it doesn't take long before it's revealed that Magnifico doesn't actually intend to grant most of the wishes, because he believes that they are not in the best interest of the kingdom. Asha argues that he could just give the wishes back so that the people can pursue them themselves, to which Magnifico doesn't even consider or give any nuance towards. He simply has a fixed mind that cannot be changed. All of a sudden, from this scene on, Magnifico's countenance takes a massive change. He becomes arrogant, prideful, selfish, and condescending, which really clashes with the beginning where he seemed generous, understanding, loving, and kind. The movie kind of went out of its way in the first 20 minutes to make Magnifico seem as great as possible, only to immediately start ripping him down and revealing him to be selfish, manipulative, egotistical, and power-hungry. From a filmmaking standpoint, this writing is awful, and it doesn't make any sense. Quite frankly, I don't think it's a coincidence. If the idea behind Magnifico's character was to make him a good villain with a compelling backstory and valid motivations, then the movie would not have jumped from one extreme to another. Character flaws like his selfishness and narcissism would have been apparent from the get-go. The reason Magnifico's character is so inconsistent, and why by the end he becomes a completely different character, or even by the time Asha wants him to grant a wish 20 minutes in, is because the people writing the movie weren't trying to make a character, they were trying to make a point. The point they wanted to make is that God appears to love his people and want what's best for them, but in reality he is self-absorbed and power-hungry. Now, this is where you might start to think that the God comparison is getting really far-fetched, because Magnifico's characteristics stray so far from the Christian's viewpoint of God. I mean, come on, Magnifico uses dark magic in this movie. God would never do that. Yeah, that is literally the whole point I'm trying to make. Magnifico is not God. He is a twisted, false interpretation of what the filmmakers want you to believe God is. The filmmakers want you to think that God is unstable in his ways. At the beginning of the movie, it is established by Magnifico himself that he has a rule against using dark magic, but once he is threatened by another powerful force, he breaks his own rule. Now, obviously to a Christian, this is something that we know God wouldn't do. Not just because it's evil, but because the Bible says in Hebrews 13:8, Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever. And it says in Malachi 3:6, for I am the Lord, I change not. You see, God won't change. He is the same forever. He won't compromise or turn from his word because of circumstances. So there, Magnifico being a God character is debunked. Except for once again, the filmmakers weren't trying to create an accurate depiction of God. They were trying to make God the villain. The only way to make the only truly good person in the universe a villain is by perverting the depiction of his character. If you still aren't convinced that Magnifico is supposed to be a god figure, look at the lyrics of his horribly written and composed villain song titled, This Is the Thanks I Get. Really, go listen to that song and tell me I'm wrong. Magnifico utters lines like, I put the I in omnipotent and someone praise me for my benevolence. Yeah, they definitely weren't trying to get any message across with that song. There are also a handful of other lyrics that struck me as jabs towards God in the Bible, like in the song titled The Wish, which begins with this line, Isn't truth supposed to set you free? Then why do I feel so weighed down by it? This feels like a direct jab at John 8:32, which says, And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. There is also the line from the ending reprise of that same song, where the entire kingdom rises up to stop Magnifico, and they sing a lyric that goes like this, We were all confusing your promises for protection. In the context of Magnifico being a god figure in the story, I felt that this line was trying to contradict the statement made in 2 Thessalonians 3:3, which says, But the Lord is faithful, and he will strengthen you and protect you from the evil one. There are more little details like lines of dialogue that I thought were trying to drill in the message that God is bad and that we don't need him, but there's another side to this story at play. Not only was the movie vilifying the God character, but it was building up another type of cosmic power as being the hero. No, I'm not talking about the Little Luma star thing. A critic named Amy Nicholson from the New York Times actually hit it pretty close to the mark when she said, "This is a film about a spiritual revolution. Can Asha, a humanist, convince the islanders to reject the man in the embroidered robe who preaches that he alone is a conduit for miracles?" I completely agree with Amy's statement, and that Asha is definitely a humanist character, but I think there is another more potent opponent being conveyed in the movie: pantheism. The idea that everything in the universe is connected to each other and is one is hammered in with almost no subtlety in the song I Am a Star. Oh my word, what a dumb song. Not just because it's an anthem about how we are all one with the universe and with each other, yada yada yada, but the music isn't anything special and some of the lyrics are just plain dumb. Like when the song feels the need to literally say, "Boom, did we just blow your mind?" As if what the song is saying is so revelatory and profound that the writers just had to insert a lyric that pats themselves on the back. Oh, and the song also has dumb lines like, "Here's a little fun allegory that gets me excitatory," and "Watch out world, here I are." Someone please kick me in the balls, it would feel better than listening to this piece of garbage. There was one tiny, singular, solitude, singular part of the song that I really liked, at least musically and vocally anyway. Unfortunately, the lyric here suffers from its inclusion to the bigger story being told. The line goes, "Have you ever wondered why you look up at the sky for answers?" Which inherently could have been a beautiful line. I mean, some people look to the sky when they pray to God. However, the context of the lyric here refers more to the heavy astrology themes in the movie. Asha's father was an astrologer who studied the stars to learn the meaning of life and the universe, and oh wait, King Magnifico referred to him as a philosopher. Doesn't that sound much better? For Pete's sake, just call it what it is, Disney. In the movie's main song, and quite frankly the best, not great, song in the movie, Asha literally sings the line, "So I look up at the stars to guide me." Oh my, where was I? Oh yeah, "You're a star." Let's look at some more of the lyrics, shall we? "When it comes to the universe, we're all shareholders." Or how about, "We're all just little nebulae in a nursery from supernovas now we've grown into our history." Or, "We are our own origin story." Oh wait, here's a good one. "No matter where you end or start, we are all each other's counterparts." Asha's pet goat Valentino even states, "So your dust is my dust? Fantastic!" What an annoying goat. It all accumulates into the chorus where everyone proclaims that they are a star, and they mean that 100% literally. It's not the typical cute Disney or Hollywood trope where everyone is a star, as in their character shines bright and they are talented and special. No, this movie literally preaches that we are all connected to the cosmic energy of the stars and the universe. In the finale of this movie, the villagers beat Magnifico by harnessing their star energy together until they become more powerful than him. What a weird movie. There is also the humanistic message here that we don't need to put our hopes and dreams in the hands of an all powerful king, but that we can pursue our desires and see them through ourselves. And on that note, there's just one thing about the plot that I want to discuss before bringing it all together: Magnifico's wife. If I really wanted to run with the God idea, I could argue that Queen Amaya represents the church, being that the church is the bride of Christ. If this theory holds out, that would mean that a piece of the theme is the church realizing that God is a fraud and standing up against him. What blasphemy! Also, from a narrative perspective, this is a huge missed opportunity. Disney could have struck narrative gold by giving us our first Disney villain couple. Like, for real, there was no reason why Amaya shouldn't have stayed with her husband. If she didn't like Magnifico's flaws, then why did she ever marry him in the first place? being that it seemed like she stands for everything Magnifico doesn't. It would have been more interesting and unpredictable seeing Amaya enjoy her royalty and power and loving Magnifico too much to the point where she actively aids him in his evil deeds, instead of having her join with the other annoying characters. It actually would have made sense in terms of the false thematic messages. The church becomes so wrapped up in the love they feel towards their God that they will follow him endlessly, even to the dismay of others' lives. So why didn't the filmmakers take this chance to bash the church? I personally believe that it's because they didn't want to defame Christians or make the church out to be a villain. The message behind Wish is that people are good and that we have great desires that make us who we are. By trusting in a God who will help us and guide us through life, we have to give up our dreams and desires, which leaves us dormant and uninspired. It's not until we can realize that we have the power in ourselves to make our dreams a reality that we can truly make a difference in the world and be who we are. I don't agree with this message, but I also don't think that it was entirely thought up under ill intent. While the movie does focus mainly on the idea of God being a villain, I think the overall intended villain is religion, or more specifically, just the idea of praying to and trusting in a higher power to fulfill our potential. The good guys here are the human race / the universe, and that's why Amaya separates herself from Magnifico. It symbolizes the church seeing the truth and leaving the idea that they have to put their faith in a God, and instead learning to put faith in themselves. While the messages of this movie might be well intended, they are nonetheless wrong and very damaging. There is a God, but he loves us and he knows what's best for us. Jeremiah 29:11 says, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you a hope and a future." I would encourage you to read the 3 verses that follow that scripture, and if you have the time, the entirety of Jeremiah 29. There's a lot more good stuff in that chapter that can pertain to this movie and this discussion. Furthermore, God created the heavens and the earth. The universe is connected, but it's not connected through energy that courses through our being, but through God's grand design and power. And that doesn't mean that we have access to the power of the stars, but we do gain a supernatural power when we accept Christ. We don't need to look up at the sky for answers, because we can know the one who made the stars and gives us the answers, if we look for them in his word and through prayer. God isn't some selfish king who takes our desires so that we forget about them and then holds them captive so that we don't mess up his plans. He lets us freely give our hearts and desires to him so that we can focus on him, and once our focus is on him, he can use our desires to make a better world through us. God is ultimately the authority. He does decide what's right and what's wrong, but his heart is not that we lose our desires and the fullness of our heart, but that our hearts will be filled with good and that we fulfill and accomplish the fullness of our potential. This is all ours if we will just trust him. "For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord. As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts." Isaiah 55:8-9. I'm not going to tell you that it's a sin to watch or even to like the movie Wish. As you can tell, there's a lot that I gathered from the film that bothered and concerned me as a Christian, and I spoke from my heart. If you, however, don't feel the same and believe that viewing this movie won't affect the way you or your children view God, life, and the universe, then that's your own prerogative. Each of us has to live by our own convictions, of which God and the Bible should be at the center of. I have given my reasons for why I don't like Wish and why my future children will not be watching it in my house. Now, your own decision is up to you. Thank you all for watching. If you like this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. I hope this video helped you see God in a better light. God bless and goodbye.